Hey everyone, this is Nico Earnshaw from the Decentraland Foundation, and in this video I want to go into how you can import your own 3D art into a scene using the Creator Hub. So let's open a scene that I already was working on before. As you surely know, you can use all of these default 3D models and you can just drag them into your scene, but if you are a 3D artist or work with a 3D artist or can buy your own custom 3D art, then this opens up your creative possibilities a lot. So let's click on this plus sign here in the corner, and this allows me to just drag and drop any 3D models or assets that I want into my scene. So I have this folder with a bunch of things that I can try out. So let's start with this avocado.glb file. It will show me a quick preview of how it looks, and I can import it into my scene. So now I can find this 3D model by navigating the local assets tab here. So I can switch between the default assets and the local assets up here, and this will be inside the scene folder. And you will see that there is already an avocado.glb file that I can just drag into my scene, just like with the assets that come from the asset pack. And this is my avocado in my scene. So great, for most 3D models, this is all I really need to do. But let's look at some other corner cases. For example, what if I want to import a 3D model that comes with built-in animations? I can also do that. So let's use this cat guy cult 3D model. If you were around in Decentraland since 2020, you might recognize this character. So this 3D model includes a single looping animation called idle, and with this we can just, make the NPC feel a bit more alive. Now, notice that once I drag this 3D model in, there's an animator component that tells me information about the animations of the 3D model. In the case of, for example, the avocado, I did not have that additional information. But if there are animations present in the 3D model, then you should see this. Now, here you should see a drop-down with all of the possible animations that are built inside the model, but in this case there's just one, so I can't select between this and other ones. But I can toggle the start playing and the loop toggles so that this animation is playing constantly all the time in my scene. So let's see how this looks like in the preview. So when I enter the preview of my scene, you'll notice that this cat guy is running the idle animation. It's subtle, but it does the trick. Notice how he's moving his shoulders and hands in a kind of a breathing motion. And of course, animations can be used for all sorts of other things. You could have, a crackling fire, or trees moving with the wind, or spotlights that constantly shift position, or even floating platforms. And of course you can also have animations that respond to player interactions in more elaborate ways, but we'll cover that in a further, more advanced tutorial. For now, let's just look at how you can loop animations constantly. Now let's talk about colliders for a minute. All of the 3D models in all of these default asset packs include both a visible layer of geometry and also an invisible layer of geometry. And this is an optimization. This simplified layer is used to calculate basically if the player can run through something or not. And when it comes to that, we don't need so much level of detail, so the engine can do with a much simpler model. So for example, for these columns or these walls, you notice that they have, cracks and bricks. All of those things are a bit superfluous when it comes to seeing if the player can run right through them. And so when it comes to the invisible collider geometry, we can do with much more simpler geometry. For example, let's look at this piano here. The collider layer of the piano is what you see here in white, and the real visible layer of the piano is what you see here. And you'll notice that each one of the keys has its own rectangle. But yeah, when it comes to treating the piano as a piece of furniture, when it comes to viewing the piano as someone who cannot play the piano, we're okay with this level of detail. This is all we really need. Now, as I was saying, most of the 3D models that you will run into will include this already existing layer of simpler geometry, but sometimes you will find when it comes to importing your own 3D models that the models lack that. And that is the case for my friend here, the cat guy. I can run right through him. And sometimes that is alright, sometimes that is not. That all depends on the kind of content you're trying to build. But let's pretend in this case that I do care about not being able to walk through this guy. So what can we do? There's a couple of different options. One is to use a smart item that is built just for that. It's the invisible wall smart item. So I can drag that in place to be, overlapping with my NPC. I can also, shrink it a little bit and stretch it up so that it matches his shape a bit better. And with this, I won't be able to run through him. This cube, of course, is visible here in preview, but it won't be visible when I'm running the scene as a player. So that's one possible solution. The ideal solution would be to open this in Blender or some other 3D editing software and add the collider geometry there. But of course, that requires being a bit familiar with those tools. There's a third option, which includes changing the properties of the GLTF component right here, and there you can also change how the collision layers respond to the different layers of geometry. Now that's a bit more advanced, we leave that out of the scope of this tutorial because I wanted to keep it simple, but that's all I wanted to share for now. I hope you found this useful and that you can use this information to build really great things in Decentraland. Thanks for watching and happy building!